Good day. I don't even know. The time zones, man, they're weird. Time zone, what are they? We're back for UD7. Hey Mythical, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good here on the East Coast where it is 2 in the afternoon. Wherever it is for you, welcome, welcome.
I don't know when
We've
it
got
is.
we've got back to back. It turns out it's always a different time everywhere in the world all the time. So it's a totally fruitless endeavor. Don't worry about it. Worry about is this crazy elimination format tournament that we've got for you guys today. It's there's always been a lot of experimentation with format in terms of speedrun tournaments and stuff. So I'm happy. I'm happy that we're trying something different here.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty fun, I think. On Minute, we are going to go for 3 races. In order to pass the first race, you are going to have to beat the game in less than 9 minutes. Then second turn is going to be 8 minutes as the cutoff, and then it's going to be whoever remains has to do their best. And it's going to be easy for Mohawk to pass both threshold. As we can see, they have a PB at 7:11, but for both Lebref and Maxfrad, and Moonery, my bad, it might be difficult. But Maxfrad with the double arrow, the 7:28 as a PB, should be okay for them too.
Yeah, and also Mohawk also happens to be, I think, the record holder, definitely the UD record holder for Neo Turf Masters, which is another game we'll be playing today. So Mohawk is well poised for this tournament. Is gonna, doesn't have a time posted for Trackmania, and I don't know. Are we doing 3 separate?
Yeah, it is
tournaments?
3 separate tournaments.
Okay, so Mohawk could be picking up 2 stars here. They're very, very strong in both Minit and Neo Turf Masters. Maxrad could maybe give him a run for their money, and really, it's Moonrim and Lebref are going to need some help, because it is really, really not so easy to pick up 50 seconds in Minute. It's the kind of thing you really need to drill down and practice for, so it's going to be tough.
Yeah. So since the format is a little bit different from the other streams we've done so far, we are not going to stick on those 4 players. That was the 4 first we're going to stream today, but obviously some of those might not pass the first or second turn, so we are going to switch and show some other people. But Minute, if you've never seen it, is a pretty cool short game, adventure game, where you only have a minute to do whatever you need to do, and after the minute passes, you die and you start all over again. So, as you said earlier, Mythical, it is a fitting category for the game, because if you die, you lose about a minute, and the cutoff is the difference between first turn and second turn is a minute, and it's going to be pretty interesting to see if people can do better on the second time, or at least be consistent enough to pass the 2 turns we are doing.
It's going to be pretty tough, I think, for Moonrim and Lebref. I think Maxfred and Mohawk probably are going to be just fine. But the final boss of this game can be a little weird. Very easy to die, to lose time to fairly random things in terms of where these swords are popping out all over the place. But the rest of the game is fairly consistent. There's little pockets of RNG with the little grass head guys that run around and stuff like that. But for the most part, it is really just a very precise top-down movement style game. Yeah. And it's, once you get good enough at it and you have it, you have it. And I feel like that's going to carry a lot of players who have put the time in. It just takes time to get to that point.
You know what that game misses a little bit is comparing it to an adventure game, as we see it started here. Obvious reference to Zelda, as we start on the picking up the sword on the beach here, and nice sync between Lebref and Mohawk picking up the watering can in sync. This game lacks a bit of pumping, right? And the task has been made during the night today, and you can actually pump with the watering can. If you press exactly the A button for 1 frame, you are going to gain a little bit of speed. So here we go. Now it is officially Zelda.
Alright, so Lebref died to the bowl. That can only be bad. Moonrim is going with a alternate route that gets the flashlight at the beginning of the game. There is a dark room that both Lebref and Mohawk passed pretty easily at the start. That's why it's a big shame that Lebref died to the bowl afterwards. But getting through that room requires you to sit down and practice how to do this room in the dark with only audio cues. So a lot of newer players have opted to go get the flashlight and light the way through that room. It does take a bit of extra time, so might get past the first turn, but it's doing this route is going to pretty much doom you to continue further. So we'll see how far Moonroom can go. Lebref playing from behind now, trying to trigger the Oasis that has the sword throwing ghost that just has a baseball glove. It's the only reason you can not throw your sword in real life and have it come back to you and catch it, is because you don't have a proper sword catching glove.
Yeah. On the left part of the screen, Mohawk got the guarding glove, because the only reason you could not cut down trees, obviously, is you did not have any glove to protect you from splinters. So now they can actually cut down trees. So it opens up a complete new part of the world. But first, Mohawk here is getting the coffee, so you can push crates, because you need to be super energized and caffeinated to be able to push crates around, obviously. But here we go, cutting down those 4 trees will open up the upper side of the map with the hotel, where we are going to go on a little quest to gather many people around that hotel, so the owner would open up the swimming pool for us.
Yeah, that's right. There's some flippers up there, and I thought that the scuba diver gives you the flippers, but now that I look, they're right there already. But the scuba diver will give them to you, but you have to rescue him first. He only pops out when the timer is below 10 seconds, so the routing is done such that you arrive in the area at the time. If you're really good like Mohawk, you have extra time to actually go trigger the new save point at the hotel and then go back, and because otherwise you'd just be waiting with that extra time. And it's not so easy to get to the point where that makes more sense than just waiting and picking up the scuba diver as you go. So that's a pretty good sign that you're looking at an advanced player. Exiting that screen there, pushing that block, to the guy trying to get his lost credit card at 28 seconds is pretty good. You can get as high as like 30 exiting that screen, but even 28 is quite hard to do. So lots and lots of hotel guests here to be rescued. One of them has fallen in with a bad crowd here, this sort of leaf gang that pops up to fight you. The one that's just running around doing nothing is a good guy. He just needs to be set straight. You do want him to be a little closer. Unfortunately, it's random where he goes and where all the enemies go, but Winter is able to dispatch of them and start trying to catch Mohawk.
You don't need to talk with the frog guy here?
No, you just cross the bridge and
you need to talk to them.
Really big.
They didn't. They missed the dialogue, and they had to go back. Wow, I was not 100% sure that would happen. I didn't know exactly, but you need the dialogue, so you can keep on going. So Mohawk is still, even though they made a couple of mistakes here and there, have a nice lead. Maxrad is still in the same place, but goes to put down the bridge, while Mohawk is already... Oh wow, careful here with the crates. You can get stuck if you do push those too far together.
Yes, we did see both boxes flush to each other and against the wall. Totally impossible to separate. But it really is that much faster to push both boxes at the same time. In a game that's all about trying to save frames, cutting corners here and there, with precise movements, being able to push 2 boxes at the same time saves like 2 seconds maybe. So it's like an eternity in this game. So it's something that everyone goes for, even if it seems like such a Maxrad, can he get under the net? No, stick the sword in and like lever it out. Come on, something's got to happen here. Dang it. what a silly way to lose time, but that's kind of how this game goes.
And the worst part in this game is you try to save a literal second, and if you miss just a bit too much, like Maxfred did, you lose an entire minute. Like the risk reward factor is so big that it's very very bad for the nerves when you go and grind the game and you try to go for all those tiny optimization, cutting down corners, and obviously when you race, you do have to balance that out and decide what you want to go for. Mohawk actually takes the bridge here, so they keep the 2 HP.
I'm trying to think of what is even. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's. I mean, aren't you gonna die like in the first 2 seconds of this fight anyway? I guess we'll see how much time he has on the clock by the time he starts. Lebreff, I think, did manage to shut down the right side of the factory before he died, so we'll see how he adjusts his routing to this fact as he heads back into the factory. Mohawk's got 18 seconds left here as he picks up the sword at 16. He's gonna, I think, get to the boss screen at about 11.
That's plenty. He could even try with the 2 HP to go for the task strat, which is to kill the one side and only one sword on the bottom part, and then you go around on the counterclockwise, and you do that in 2 cycles instead of the 3 that the world record does. Very very well done by Mohawk, and that strat is very very new, so I'm impressed to see it like couple of hours, like 12 hours after it got discovered.
Yeah, absolutely. As you were narrating what he might do, he did exactly that. Moving on to the second phase, he touches the sword, so he's going to lose just a little bit of time here. You respawn very quickly, but you're stuck waiting for the next sword to glow because you can't see it. You don't have the flashlight, so you're waiting for where you even need to go on the screen, and that takes a little bit. So. We're gonna get, not a world record or anything, but this can still very, very easily be sub 8. Throwing the sword and just kind of slashing the sword out to take care of any projectiles. It's sort of a defensive move here until the boss is vulnerable again.
So it took me a while, but I finally understood how you kill that boss. The boss spins the swords around, and then you have to hit the sword that slowly spins around it, and then is invulnerable until the sword spins faster again, and then when they shrink back close to the boss, you can hit them again. So the correct strat is only to throw your sword once when you can hit them, and then just slash away all the projectiles so you are safe in between hits. So it takes a bit of getting used to it. It's not the most easy to read, and as the players don't have the flashlight, it can get complicated to understand what's going on, obviously. But those runners know what they're doing.
The thing that really tripped me up is that the swords still flash, like they're taking damage when they're tucked in. So I thought I was getting in extra damage on the next phase or something. No, not at all. They should have just been playing more defensively. There's Moonrim's final hits. We'll see. Lebreff has got 6 swords left.
Yeah, you can see them blink here, but it doesn't help. And while on track, Lebreff with the 9 minute here is not going to make it. It's so close, but so is the rule for that first turn. You have to make it in sub 9, or you're not going to pass. So sadly, at 9:09, so close to the cutoff, they're going to have to leave the spot for another player. But Mohawk, Maxfred, and Moonrim are going to stay for the second try, where all the players are going to have to go for sub 8. Maxfred and Moonrim were not there, so it's going to be complicated for them. Maxfred is pretty close at 8:19, and I don't remember exactly the time for Moonrim, but I think it's a PB.
9:57 is the current time on the leaderboard for Moonrim, so they're going to be quite happy with how this went. Definitely a lot of practice before more attempts. It's one of those situations where the PB isn't quite an accurate reflection of skill, I think. So it's going to be a huge PB, also race PB as well. And it's going to let them survive into the next round. You can see some of the other names of some of the other players competing in this tournament. As they upload their times, they're going to pop up here. There are some names you don't see in some of the other tournaments or some of the other games, because people only like to focus on one game or another, particularly... Oh, I've lost my filter. Moucheron Kipet down there has a phenomenal time, a 7:12 in Minit, which is the third place on the leaderboard, and it's the only game they're playing this season. So this is kind of their main event, really.
Yeah. They got a 7:20 with another route, which is an insane time, and they got around and got the press pass, which allows you to enter the factory, the sword factory, and by another route, which is pretty interesting. I like the fact that players are probably doing what has been done by the community when the game came out and was speedrun back in the days already, but doing it more time and having new eyes on the different strats and routes might bring up something nobody has thought about before, so it's pretty cool. And they have very, very good times on the game. Mohawk is at 7:11. It's very, very close to world record, and here we have the times of all players, and anyone sub 9 is qualified for next round. If you are above, like Lebref, you're sadly your Minit adventure stops there, but you can get ready for the next game. Maybe it's going to be Trackmania 2. But first, we're all going to try and see if Gamonimus, Andy Shepard, Sablier, Chronodream, Sugitust, Lunamek, Maxrad, Alondo, Lesage, Moonrim, and Devil Tifa can make it in sub 8, or will they stop on the second turn? Note that a lot of players at exactly 8:14. Apparently, it's the time everybody aims for today.
Yeah, this is Minit is a game that kind of like Trackmania and like I guess like all speedruns really, but particularly with Minit, it becomes exponentially more difficult to save time the lower you go, and so there's just like I suppose there's a bit of a wall at this 8:14 mark. Obviously, it's not exactly 8:14. That's just how it went in this race, but it really does feel like that. That you do kind of hit a point where just executing pretty good is going to get you this time that's above 8 minutes. You need to execute, superbly to start to push below 8 minutes, and we'll see if these guys can. If this was, we could see Soggy seconds to missing the guy who needs water in the desert. So certainly capable of getting lower than 8 minutes. But I don't know if that's true of everyone who's floating sort of in the cutoff space right now. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, my most definitely favorite to watch is going to be Moonrim, because they are going with another route, picking up the flashlight. Maybe they're new to the game, and 8:28 with such a route is pretty cool. And we can see, yeah, the times are getting swapped around. Don't worry, the players are getting ready for the second round, and lots of players are going to get into the second race. 15 players here, and only 4 of them got sub 8 here on the first turn, which is not a lot, and many other can do it.
Yeah, what was it, 4 or 5? I'm not sure, but it was not many. So we could see, we could see at the end of this, the 4 people we display on stream are the only 4 people left remaining. And that's kind of by design, right? We knew that this was kind of the way it would go. Only so many people have a time below 9 minutes, and very few people have a time below 8 minutes, actually. So thankfully, those people came out to play today. If we had, caught them all at a bad time, then maybe we would have had a very unexciting finish at the end. But I fully trust that these guys are going to be able to give us a show in the final turn. But I wonder for the people who are on the cutoff, does this change the way they play? Are they going to try to be a little more aggressive on taking turns, which is maybe more an appropriate term for Trackmania? But really, you're trying to not bump into corners and make sure that you're trying to keep your diagonal movements as clean as possible, not getting caught up on the corners of boxes as you're pushing them, this kind of thing. There's things that you probably wouldn't be too concerned about if you were playing for a little bit of a PB. If you're forced to do something like 15 seconds faster than you've ever gone before, you would probably feel like something needs to be a little different about how I do this. And so I don't know, players might just do what they always do a little bit better, or they might get a little crazy to try to do this. I don't know.
Yeah, sub 8 is pretty difficult. My PB is at 7:45. If I was racing, being here commentating is way more comfortable. I would have to go all in. Like, I do everything, and if I die, I can let the controller go and it's over. I have to go for everything I know as good as I can, and if I don't die, I get sub 8. If I start to have misjudged my movement, if I get to hang on the black caves, it's not going to happen. And I think a lot of players are in this situation. It's going to be pretty difficult for everyone here, but we are going to swap a few players in. Goes Des, Devil Tifa, as the race is starting here. The countdown is a bit late, apparently 10 seconds late, but everybody is in. Ghostdeath is already in the basement here, going through the snakes, multiple snakes here bar your way, and you can use the sound effect, the fact that you lose a heart when you collide with a snake as cues, but it can be pretty tricky to get past that obstacle here.
Yeah, I was wondering how people were approaching this, because I don't know, I just really quick watched a run and I didn't have volume on it, I guess, so I didn't hear how they were doing it. So I came up with my own way of doing it, where I go like way out to one side, way out to the other, and there's a couple seconds for me to pick up if I was having to make this really aggressive 8-minute cutoff. Ghostdeath has reached the oasis and picked up a sword thrower. Mohawk is going up and down, and a required number of screen transitions in order to sort of stumble across the oasis in the desert. And I think took a hit there. Oh, you want to reset immediately after picking it up anyway, but really nice grab there from Mohawk, heading down to pick up the gardening glove, which is where Ghostdeath is as well. This little guy here in the desert needs to be watered. He's really thirsty, so you just sprinkle some water on him, and like a plant, he absorbs it through his skin, feels much better, and leads you to this gardening glove that lets you chop down trees, of course.
I love how close he is to civilization and still is lost in the middle of the desert. The Ghostdeath has a nice run here, goes to kill all the crabs, so he gets rewarded with the coffee. Following them is Devil Tifa there. Mohawk is already killing the crabs as Ghostdeath enters the screens. First place, Mohawk grabs the coffee, and Moonrim is far back, and 1 minute 52 here. Feels like the sub 8 is impossible for them with the route they're using, but I might be wrong. Like, it's hard to evaluate. A minute goes so fast that it feels like a second lost is a minute, and a minute lost is an hour.
Yeah, his PB with this route is better than mine with the faster route. So, my final boss fight is horrible, but it really does speak to how well Moonroom is executing on this route. We'll see if they can overcome this to make the final turn. Mohawk is into the battle with the forest fellows here. Had to backtrack quite a ways for the little guy there, but it's to be expected. It's very rare that he's like right there with you and you immediately get credit. As Ghostdeath is just a little bit behind Mohawk, pushing this little guy. 26 seconds this time on the screen transition, so a little bit worse for Mohawk, and Ghostdeath about the same. It's kind of keeping pace. You can look at the timers in the top left to sort of get an idea for how they're doing on this particular section of the game. So you can see that Ghost Death, for example, lost time somewhere else earlier. He's been completely on pace with Mohawk through that life, basically. Kind of fun that this sort of in-game mechanic is helping us evaluate the race.
I'd like to have a dedicated like life split like software that keeps track of those of the time you have when you commit suicide each time. Obviously, for the first death, it would be like 60, but on some others, it would be a good indicator, and you could compare that pretty accurately with the world record. Because Ghost Death speaks with the frog guy here on the bridge, and Mohawk gets the flippers. And Devil Tifa and Moonraim are a little bit behind, but not much. Sub 8 should be doable for Devil Tifa. Moonraim, once again, I'm worried, but they're pretty close. Mohawk gets to the Crusher with the crate. Careful not to push back the crate against the wall, because that would kill your dead attempt, at least. You could keep on going, but once again, for Sub 8, any mistake will ruin your life.
Ghost Death, a little bit of inaccuracy pushing the crates into the grinder there, but like you said, did not get them stuck in a way that it could not be salvaged. Indeed, I think he was really trying to avoid that situation, and that's what led to that little inaccuracy. Is still on pace to make this cutoff, but at the end of the day, whoever wants to win this is probably going to have to beat Mohawk, who is the UD champion basically so far, has the top time on the leaderboard for this game, rounding the conveyor belts, hitting all these switches to sort of shut down the other side of the factory. And then before we go, which is a nice euphemism for die, because that's how this game works, you just die over and over again. We got one last thing to do. We're going to break this generator and then go shut down the southern side here, and just one more trip now with the watering can, kind of retracing our steps before we get to see this final boss, which is really the big thing that you want to look to optimize when you start trying to go for a sub 8 minute time.
Yeah, when something that would kill completely the sub 8 for anyone now would be to die missing watering the gear here, and Mohawk is stuck. They reset the room. They lost a lot of time. They decide to reset because that's going to cost a lot of time for them. Devil Tifa is right with them now. Ghost Death is ahead, and the death from Mohawk here is very surprising. But if you're stuck in the dark, you have no choice. You cannot hesitate for too long. They make it on the second attempt. Very close between Devil Tifa and Mohawk. Ghost Death way ahead, and Moonraim is a little behind, one entire life, and it feels like the sub 8 is already done for them.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think even the smoothest boss fight here is not quite gonna cut it, which is kind of what we expected. We were kind of needed to see something crazy from Moonroom, just literally blindly going at the dark room with no practice, just trying to guess the way through there, something like that. Anyway, Ghost Death is gonna have enough time to sort of start the boss fight proper.
Missed the sword here. That's going to cost a little bit. They're deciding to ignore it, but keep an eye on that sword on the bottom side of the screen. That's he has to destroy it. Yeah, it takes the time here, but he's going to take a hit. Oh, nice dodge of the diagonal beams here. And Mohawk is going to show the task strat here, and Devil Tifa does it as well. Nice, they're exactly in sync.
The sword that becomes vulnerable in this phase is the one that is first. So it is actually beneficial to kind of group the swords up a little bit if you can help it. Mohawk touches the boss on the way over to the next sword, so dies and has to wait a little bit for one of these swords to become vulnerable. Ghost Death has, I think, 2 left? No, that was it. That was the last one. So he's on to the next phase here, throwing the sword, dealing damage, breaking sort of one pair of swords here before switching to defensive mode, protecting himself from swords that are coming all over the place. And Mohawk is almost catching up here, actually.
the timer on the top right of the screen is very important, as they have to kill the boss between the 8-minute mark, and the time is ticking. 2 cycle for Devil Tiffin left. Mohawk has just 1. Ghost Death is done at 7:52. Mohawk is not done yet, but 7:54, and Devil Tiffin I saw a 7:50 something. So that should be okay. And Moonrim is not too far behind. That should be PB for them. But sadly, I think without the with the flashlight, you cannot make it on time.
I wonder if if Mohawk could do the flashlight run and get sub 8. Maybe. But then you're literally having to be the absolute best among a field of how many people are in the UD season? Like 230 or something?
250, yeah.
Yeah, so a very, very tall order. A very strong performance from Moonrim doing as well as they did with the flashlight route. But sadly, we are going to have to say goodbye to them in this round. Only precious few are going to advance. It looks like we are going to have 5. Oh, Anonymous was so close.
That was the first turn here. So first turn we had 5 runners on time with Mohawk at 7:45, and second turn so at least 7. We don't have the time for everyone. Mushroom Pet here did not submit a time. Yeah, I would expect them to get there. 8 apparently. Very, very close around the 7:50 mark, so I'm pretty happy to see so many players on time. KTH with a 7:14. How do you do that?
That's a PB by 8 seconds for KTH, actually, which is a huge amount of time. I'm guessing this is something about the final boss, like the new route or something, just kind of really clicked with KTH. I don't know, but that's an incredible time. Soggy Toost, who lost 40 seconds last run to something silly, has beat that time by like a minute or something. So in addition to not making that previous mistake, also found an additional 20 seconds somewhere along the way. Andy Shepard also joining the pack with a really strong run. That was just a warm up before. People were just getting started. My goodness.
Sugitu's got a beat his previous time by 51 seconds. It's a PB they're submitting there. Their previous PB was 7:41, so that's a big PB actually by almost 20 seconds. And Tilgar is actually on time as well. Merdit had sub 8 earlier and did not make it here with a 8:08. And still no news from Mushonki Pet. I'm surprised actually. They're very, very... Oh, here we go. They're fourth with a 7:27. Just took them a lot of time to submit. Here their results, and they're actually going... We are actually having 10 runners here passing the second run. I'm surprised. I did not expect the number to double here for the players qualified, but Sogitus, Ghost Devil Tiffin, Mohawk are going to be shown on stream. Race starts, and Mohawk and Ghost Death are on their way to pick the watering can. Devil Tiffin and Sogitus as well, obviously. And
this is I wonder if people were not sandbagging, that's not the right word, but like pacing themselves in the first run because they know that I can beat a 9-minute time doing this or that, but I don't need to really crunch until it's this 8-minute cutoff, and then I'll really go for everything and make it. So I don't know if there was something like that in play. But I feel like it had to be in order for the number of people who qualified to double in that second turn. So, there's plenty of competition in the field on the final run. This time it is more like a traditional race where everyone, it's just fastest person is the one who's going to come out on top here. Sword throwing Ghost is angered by you attacking the plants really fast, actually, from Soggy Toast. It's a little bit random with this Ghost where he teleports to and which direction he goes. It feels random. I don't know. Sometimes I see the same pattern. But
everybody hits the cactuses at the exact same order and exact same places, so it manipulates a little bit the behavior of the Ghost, but depending on how precise you are with your movement, it changes a little bit. Now the players want to be top 3 for the black stars on the black star on their player card, and overall you want to be as fast as possible. You have to go all in. There is no cutoff, there is no goal, and sub 8 is not going to be enough. The 750 time. No, Mohawk, what are you doing? You cannot get killed by a crab here. That's not possible at that point. Oh my god.
Wow. This is trying to go for the hyper optimizations. If the crabs move in a certain way, you have to, and you really want to go as fast as possible. You want to approach them diagonally. And then that means at the very last second, if you're trying to be absolutely optimal, you hold the D-pad in whatever direction the crab is in and then attack. And so if you're off by a little bit, the sword's going to go maybe in the other direction, and you're not going to kill the crab. You're going to walk to it. So a very weird death, a weird looking death from Mohawk, but really is just the product of someone who's trying to absolutely save every single frame that they can.
Yeah, and even with that death, they're exactly on par with Devil Tifa. Maybe there's a 5-second difference between the two in-game time. A bad time here on Mohawk, resetting at 6 seconds after the diver. You want to. They lost about 3 seconds on the 3 seconds, and that split plus the death, so that set them back quite a bit. Sogitust is doing amazing right now. They're just not stopping for anything. The optimization with the crate here can be difficult, but gets it exactly right, pushes it and goes at 30. That's a very, very good time to leave that screen.
It really is. And lost a little bit of time having to kind of push it in on the way up. I maybe not. Maybe that's actually totally irrelevant and it all comes out in the wash. But that was a really great. Getting past the bushes basically is the hardest part. You can slash your sword through the box to kill the bush, but obviously it takes a little time to do that. So if you can kind of thread the needle, and it really is very precise. I'm not sure if it's pixel perfect, but it feels like it. Yeah, it's really difficult. Anytime you have to push a box in this game, it is really difficult. There's no exception. Into the mines with these dark rooms, blowing up some bombs from a safe distance with the thrown sword. Is not so easy to do when you can't see where you are and you only have a pretty good idea where the bombs are. There's some safer approaches that you can do, making sure that you kind of find the guy with the headlight to find out where you are before you start throwing your swords at explosives. They absolutely will kill you if you hit them, so you're too close. So it is important, but there's opportunities to be a little bit faster, blowing up the bottom one first by going downwards at the start, throwing it completely blind, but still a little faster. So it's interesting to see the strategies everyone is going with. The nice synchronization on the left side of the screen.
This is crazy. Devil Defense to get to start doing exactly the same thing. Mohawk pulled ahead by, I don't know, a tenth of a second here. Sugitu's trying to optimize as much as they can, pushing those crates. You want to inch toward the corner as you push in one direction so you can switch as fast as possible. Remember not to commit suicide too quickly here, or at least to reset too quickly. You have to wait for the crate to stop the grinder, so you have to remember a lot of things running here. And Sugitu's, okay, wow, they probably moved a little bit, so they have a easier time to aim and in the dark. That's where Mohawk got stuck earlier, so I maybe totally understand now the reasoning. When you hit the switches, you have to remember to not to be too slow because they will reset eventually, but Sugitos loses a little bit of time here, and Mohawk is a second ahead of the Voltifa, which is who is 5 seconds ahead of Sugitus. Ghostdeath is a little bit behind, but you have to be super careful not to die now. The watering can split is one of the most dangerous ones here.
I was watching Mohawk gaining ground over Devil Tifa here and there, just tiny little things, but then took a while lost some time dying after losing the sword. Actually, was stuck having to watch the animation lost a half a second or so behind Devil Tifa, half a screen length behind Devil Tifa, as both are making this final trip with the watering can to get the Mega Sword. I don't know why the lighting the sword on fire. I guess you're tempering it.
Yeah,
I guess that's sort of
I guess that's
what the
it,
process is. But in any case, fire and water plus sword equals mega sword, and it's strong enough to take down the factory here. You can see the Devil Tifa is half a second going by. You know, my eyes darting left and right, looking at the timer in the top left, trying to compare the two. I think that is correct. We also got a boss fight from Sagi Toost, and is about to join.
So the boss fight, you cannot commit suicide during the boss fight. This is one of the differences between the third version of the game and the current version we are playing on. If you watch the world record on speedrun.com, they can commit suicide here, and that saves a little bit of time, but not much. Here you have to do your best, try not to die, kill the boss in one life if you manage to do it. Especially in the second phase, where all the players are here, it's pretty difficult. The swords that are going to be hittable are the most far from you all the time you have, so you have to gather them as best as you can, manipulating their behavior. But here we are on the final phase here, very close between all three players on the exact same phase actually.
Yeah, the timers for Mohawk and Devil Tifa are more or less synced up, so we are kind of really actually seeing where they are relative to each other, which means I think we just saw Devil Tifa beat Mohawk, who is very clearly struggling with the end phase of the final boss. The number of swords gets insane in the final phase, coming from the wall as well as the boss. Mohawk needs to hit that sword, does manage to hold on to this cycle, can maybe start to think about taking second or third, depends on Saki Toost's run, and as well as 6 other runs that were happening off stream since so many people qualified for the final turn. I would have thought Mohawk might run away with this a little bit, but everyone is playing phenomenally here today.
Yeah, so 7:33 for Sagi Toost, 4 seconds ahead of Mohawk. So except if no one else got sub 7:37, Mohawk is out for the Black Star here, so we are going to have a peek on the results. And Devil Tifa, apparently, even though they had a pretty bad first race and then not one of the best second one, they're somehow once again finishing on top here. Sagi Toost gets a very good time as well, and maybe we are streaming the 4 first players actually. It is hard to be consistent on when you're speedrunning. It's one of the hardest skill to get and to master. It means you're running a lot, and I'm pretty happy we're doing that little tournament here on Minit, because that forces a lot of players to do all 3 runs in a row, and that helps learning how to be consistent. I hope we have some more finishes, because we had 10 runners qualified. Where are Andy Shepard, Gamonimus, Maxfrad? Here we go.
All right, we got Ganonimus did indeed get well under the 8-minute mark, tying actually with Tilgar for 4th, but the difference between 3rd and 4th is really the interesting point here. Top 10 will get white stars, top 3 will get silver, and then 1st, of course, will get the gold star. So both Tilgar and Ganonimus just a little bit shy of challenging Mohawk, of all people, for the top 3. Sort of the gatekeeper of this run. KTH, who had a PB, who would have beat everyone in this race from his time within the previous race, sadly was not able to replicate that insane performance, and is going to finish in 6th. Mushiron is just a little bit behind, tying KTH in 6th. Ghost Death, who we had on stream, is going to tie with Maxfrad, who we also previously had on stream, to round out 8th and 9th. And then ND Shepard, with a time that just barely wouldn't have qualified last time, 8:01, is going to round out our top 10. I don't know if we did only have the 10, I think. I think these other names are left over. So
we are doing only black stars today, because colored stars like gold, silver are reserved when you are best on multiple games. Only one game is considered too easy for UD to award a gold star. So it's But it is pretty hard to come by with those black stars. You have to be ready to compete on fun and side event, which means if you want to do everything, all the white, black and colored stars, you have to play a lot for the UD. So I'm pretty happy to see many players here ready to get their card as pimped and as possible. So G2 has already 2 black stars. Apparently he's becoming one of our specialists on those side events, but also silver and bronze star, as well as the 3 white stars. So they're up there, one of the best players we have actually for UD7. And let's see how well they do if they compete on Trackmania. Hard to, like, it's a fair well-known game at that point, I feel like, in the esports scene, as well as a bit less in speedrunning, but there's a lot of players that have played that game. The goal is to be as fast as possible by design anyway, so is it speedrunning? Is it an esport game in the most traditional sense? I don't know. We are going to have those players playing first the 5 first tracks. Only the top 12 is going to make it to play tracks 6 to 10. Only the top 8 is going to play the 5 next tracks, and only the top 4 is going to remain to do one final full run of the game. So I hope we're not going to have too big trouble setting up those players, because we are playing with in-game time, as the loads can be a bit longer. And let's see, what do you expect to see on that on those races, Mythical?
The first thing I expect to see is at least one player didn't see the announcement that there is an update to Trackmania Stadium today, and is stuck patching the game right now, and will undoubtedly cause a little bit of a delay before we get going. But that aside, Rasta Bobby, I think, is the 2nd place on the UD leaderboard and is like top 5 overall. For this category is the one who's been doing a lot of tutorials and stuff for the game, so very strong, very consistent player, so look for them to do well for sure. I'm not sure, let me try to take a look at who else is competing today, but I think I only see Minit right now, so it's a little hard for me. But of the players on stream, we have Kerpuik, who has a 11:28 in the category, is a very, very good time. That's a good reason they've been chosen for the top right. There is Olnakur, who has a 12:50, which is a solid time, but is kind of doesn't hang with the top 2. So you know, again, like almost compared to like Minit, Moonroom is going to be playing from behind, or Olnakur, sorry, is going to be playing from a little bit behind, whereas Moonroom this time, as an 11:39, 11th place on the leaderboard, is quite strong. So is in the better position here in Trackmania. But you know, I expect them to advance out of the first 5 tracks for sure. But after that, it's who knows? It's a hard game to be consistent at.
It's a hard game, and the category here is ruthless. I mean, you take a single hit on any wall and you're out. It's so short. Like the full category is about 12 minutes, so if a third, it should be about 4 minutes long, and anything will punish you so hard. We'll see how well the players do as the race is starting. So in the middle you have the real time, and we are comparing the players in-game time, obviously, as it's starting right now. First track is one of the hardest of the first 5, I'm fairly certain, with the dirt that's pretty hard to master, and you want to take the curves as wide as you can, but any mistake will throw you off and make you hit a wall, losing a bunch of speed. But very, very nice movement by Rasta Bobby here. As you said, he's very experienced with the game, and they're going to finish the first track here in 36 seconds, as Kerpuik is in 37, and Moonraim, I did not quite catch the time, but the in-game timer is so close between Kerpuik and Moonraim that I expect it to be the same.
Yep, it was pretty much a early 37, same as Kerpuik, Double T and Rasta Bobby, the first ones to load into Track 2, a fairly straightforward track. There's no dirt or anything like we saw with the totally different physics. There is, of course, a gigantic loop-to-loop, so if you haven't been introduced to Trackmania before, there's a pretty good introduction about how crazy it can be. But aside from the loop-to-loop, it is a pretty straightforward track. And honestly, the loop-to-loop itself, from an execution perspective, is quite straightforward. You just kind of drive into it. It's basically like a fancy straightaway. You do need to turn a little bit because of the way this particular loop is laid out, but then it's just kind of a straight shot. The S turns to round out track 2, heading into track 3. Rasta Bobby doing a really cool thing there, sort of zigzagging out to the side at the start of the track. This is because you don't want to be in the air. You want to have your tires on the ground, and you're going to go over that little bump and catch into the air. So even though you're obviously, moving out of the way of the main driving line, you're keeping your wheels on the ground and accelerating the whole time, barely holding on through the jumps at the end of track 3 here.
The bounce makes you lose grip of the road and lose a bunch of time. We swapped in Devil Tifa on the bottom right part of the screen. They're completely and perfectly tied with Rasta Bobby. They both load exactly at the same speed, so I can expect the in-game timer to be exactly the same as well. The dirt part here with your engine cut off is pretty difficult to do perfectly, but they're not having any issue. Rasta Bobby pulled ahead by like a tenth of a second, it seems, and the last part here on the dirt is pretty tricky. There's one tiny bump here. You don't want to have your car flying away and missing the end, so you need to aim yourself correctly. Moonrim finishes as well. It's very close between all three players, as expected.
Yeah, this is, if you just drive the race and you don't hit any walls, you'll get a certain time, and then you can start to tighten on that and you'll save maybe a second or two. But then after that, you really, really have to start fighting to save time, and that's kind of the skill level that these players are at. So incredibly small differences between all the players, and it can swing at any time. One bad turn and we can see a drastically different race. And this is a track with a number of potential bad turns, particularly this sort of downwards one that Moonrim is taking right there. You really need to swing out wide and slow down at least a little bit, probably letting off the gas more than hitting the brake. Hitting the brake on the dirt is can put you, like, you just have like no traction on the dirt. So whenever possible, you want to use the outsides of the track. The banking of the physics will kind of keep you in, rather than having to turn on the dirt, because turning on anything other than concrete really sucks. Quick taking a bit of a hit there, but that turn can go so much worse than that. So
yes,
I consider that a win.
Yeah, it is the harder turn here on this first 5 tracks. You go so fast at that point in the track. There's dirt, so it's harder to decelerate, and you just really have to brake a little bit so you're not sent flying into the wall. So you see all those players slow down quite a bit at like 150 kilometers per hour, and Moonrim takes a big hit, drops down to 120, and keeping an eye on the speed here can give you a good hint on how the players are doing. I do expect those three to pass the first turn, but I don't know how well all the players have done. 409 here for Moonrim as the players keep on going. So next up, only the top 12 is going to play on track 6 to 10. So another set of different tracks. The track number 10 is another multi-lap track, so matters the most. Saint Mars finishes the first set of tracks here first with a 3:59. Very good time.
Yeah, Céline de Mars are a very strong runner of the category. I think they're our first. They passed Rasta Bobby on the 15th, actually, so that was a while ago. I'm a little out of date, but is currently number 1 on the UD leaderboard, and is 6 seconds off the world record, I think. So 6 seconds is a lot, certainly, in a game like this, but this is the world record is quite optimized, actually. There are people. Trackmania is the kind of game that attracts like mega fans of Trackmania. So um, it is. It's not the kind of thing that you can just pick up for a couple weeks and challenge the world record. So the fact that Sailing to Mars 6 seconds off, they may have had previous experience. Now that I think about it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think they did, because as you said, it's not any NES game I would expect an experienced speedrunner to be able to pick up at very, very good level, close to world record level, within a few weeks or months of practice. Maybe not the most optimized game, but you could do that. On Trackmania, I do expect it to take a lot of time in practice and experience just to be able to do well and be consistent and be able to shave those tiny frames and seconds that are going to differentiate you and the world record. Those 6 seconds feels like an immense gap between Silent Mars and the world record. Even if it doesn't feel like it as a viewer, those times are pretty close. The way they play is almost completely different, and it's pretty cool to see that they're all getting closer and closer, and maybe they will make a slide in the end of the UD. But Rasta-Body, Quick, Moonrim, and Devil Tifa were 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th of our rankings. So they're going to play the second part here on our little fun Trackmania 2 tournament. And in chat, Sugitus said that Trackmania is 100% a weak spot for them, but still they're ranking them in 6th place here, which is very good for a weak spot, I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm checking now. Soggy is on my team in the team tournament, and
Nice.
I'm trying to remember if he's playing Trackmania for us or not, because Soggy is actually. So this was something that they felt they wanted to work on for our team, actually. And it looks like it's showing here. Sagitust is a very, very strong player across the entire Ultimate Decathlon, was the 2nd player to hit the 2,000 point mark in the season, so put in a lot of time early on. And it's the kind of thing where, you know, even your weakest game, when you're that good at 9 others, means that you're still pretty good at it. So I feel pretty confident having Soggy on my team. We'll see how
I went with
they
a
stack up
bet,
to.
and I went with Devil Tifa.
Yeah, that's a pretty good guy to have in your corner. Turns out.
Yeah, who would have guessed? But here we go. Second round, you have to be top 8 here on those tracks. Number 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. 10 being probably the hardest, and 6 being one of the easiest tracks actually on the entire category. There we go. Back to the game. So you start off with that red cross. Oh no, my bad. The grass here. That is very, very hard to get a grasp onto actually, and then a tiny zigzag here. You don't want to go too fast, and you're almost done with the track actually. So very short, very easy, and one of the easiest track to get your green medal for.
Yeah, there's an opportunity. Rastababa did a really good job of this, actually, is the top players in this game will use any time that your car is airborne to turn. You kind of get to turn for free without losing traction or speed on the ground if you can do it in the air. So even if it's only for tiny little moments of getting popped up into the air, top players will make sure that they take these little bumps at angles to make sure that their car is turning in a desirable direction. And Rastababi had just like this very gentle turn over kind of a long jump that landed them perfectly in line with the next turn. And that's the kind of thing that really does not come easily, and only the really stronger players are kind of looking to optimize. So we can take a look at Rastababi's run through the 7th track here. It's already over. A little difficult to follow, perhaps, but that is Trackmania, really.
What happened to Kill Quick? They're back at the start of track 7 here. I wonder if they hit a miss key, like a miss press on the delete button. Starts back at the start of the track. I hope it's just a stream issue and not them like losing a lot of time. But yeah, maybe.
No,
I don't know.
Wait, no, this is still the same track. Yeah, this sucks. Hopefully
Trackmania
everything's okay.
Trackmania is way too difficult for the Restream to handle, apparently. I'm sorry, but here we go. Track 8 is already done, but Rasta Bobby is not doing as great and as hot as I expected them to. Quick goes back to the menu once again. This is very worrying for them, but track number 9 here starts off with the dirt once again, and this is a weird one with a lot of transition from concrete to dirt, which creates weird drifting mechanics as soon as you transition, so you have to get ready for those.
But there are a bunch of little jumps here, and you can use those little moments to sort of get your car turning in the air. Devil Tifa did a little bit of that, coming over that crest in the dirt, heading into the final stretch here. Just one gentle turn on the dirt, but any sort of turn on the dirt is an opportunity to save time optimizing, because you are punished so much for turning more than you need to on dirt. Heading into track 9, I think it is, a long multi-lap track with a lot of tough turns that you have to break for, including some stuff on dirt here. Actually, we can see Moonroom just past that section, Rasta Bobby just coming out of this section as well. Onto the concrete here with, a lot of having to brake on this turn here, and again, a couple turns here and there. I know it can be hard to follow with the way things are going right now, but I think we're looking at Moonroom in first, followed by Devil Tifa.
Ooh, Moonroom takes a big hit here, so Devil Tifa might be able to pass them, but Devil Tifa poorly manages the dirt section as well, and you want to turn. There's a small bump in the road. Rasta Bobby demonstrates that right now. You want to be able to turn as your car is airborne, and last turn and final turn for this selection round starts here. Devil Tifa is a little bit behind. Rasta Bobby just passed them. Moonrim is still in the lead. You want to be top 8 here, so you want to be among those the best from those 4. I feel like Quick had terrible issue on track 7 and actually went his life away, and he's practicing track 7 now.
Yeah, it seems so. I don't know. Maybe their soul is just stuck here on track 7 forever now, and this is they're gonna get the individual level record for track 7 eventually, driving this way. The other racers have now finished. Devil Tifa and Rasta Bobby were obviously very close, just based off of the cutscene that plays after the replay, rather. So hopefully the things are okay for Quick, just sort of mentally or spiritually, perhaps. Seeing something a little different now, actually, that is a bit of a spoiler, maybe.
This is track 8, so this is once again Quick probably just is just practicing those tracks, or is having a weird streaming stroke. Maybe the stream is just super delayed. I don't know. We are going to give them the benefit of the doubt, and they will anyway submit their race time at the end. So we'll see how it went, but. Every other 12 players should be done by now on those tracks. It's not a long category. 5 tracks in Trackmania, when you know what you're doing, between 4 and 5 minutes should be enough.
Transitioning from concrete to dirt, you want to do your turning either in the air or on the concrete if you can help it, and try to take the dirt sections as straight as possible. Of course, when there's only dirt, you do have to turn into the finish there. Coming out of track 9, we'll see how track 10 goes. It was a little chaotic the first go around.
Track 10 is probably my biggest run killer. You want to go as fast as you can, but that dirt section you have to slow down a little bit, and that turn is difficult. You want to keep and to stay as close as possible to the walls, but any bump will kill completely your run. That turn here as well, the drift to get that curve correctly is pretty difficult, and it's actually kind of twice the same thing. It's a ring with one corner in concrete, one corner in dirt, and one corner in concrete, and repeat. And all those tiny turns here can be pretty tricky to navigate, but Kapupik does fantastic. That's probably why they were top 12 here, but sadly they're not going to make it past the second round, I feel.
Yeah, unless something horrible happened to everyone else racing as well, then I very much doubt it. But is taking this track really well.
No!
Has gone through the well. That is something that can happen. It's the dirt section, that turn, this one a little bit right here, and then also turning on this dirt here is the three things kind of about this track. And that middle one got him pretty good.
Crashes at the end. Perfect finish for that race. I'm sorry, Quick. I'm deeply sorry for what happened. But at least they crashed not during a complete run, so they're not going to feel too bad. We did not have the finish time for Little Mai, one of the other few runners that has a gold star on the player card. So I don't know what happened, but they're a fantastic runner for UD. Very good at New Turf Master as well, so we might see them on the next game that's going to happen about 20 minutes from now. And yeah, so we should have Silent Mars still doing great, 2 seconds ahead once again from Rasta Bobby. Moonrim and Rasta will be very close together. Quick submits a 3:57. I'm not sure what happened. I will check with everyone. That feels wrong considering how everything went.
Yeah, was the stream just replaying the same track over and over?
Yeah, I don't know. I will check actually.
Meanwhile, we can take a look at the insane menus that Trackmania has. We can also take a look at some PBs. 1 second difference between Selling Demars and Rasta Bobby. At the top, Kupik with 11:28 and Moonrim 11:39, kind of racing from behind a little bit now. But they did really well in Minit from this position, so we'll see how it goes. But the trappings around Trackmania, the menus, the launcher, I don't know what is going on in the developer studio, but they oh man, it is truly wild how weird and unique this game is. Like if you want to run a server, it costs planets. And planets are a currency that you earn through the game, but you also earn them when people play on your server. And like, if you want to like change your server settings, it can like cost planets to do so. Like, there's some really weird ideas wrapped up in the sort of the surroundings of this game that largely aren't a factor in the speedrun. We're really just driving at the end of the day for our purposes. But if you want to get into Trackmania, there's a bit of a barrier to some stuff you need to figure out.
I don't know how I feel about that. It's pretty weird. So I got to talk a little bit with Quick. They actually crashed and at the start of track 7, and then Live Split refused to work. So they agreed with the race admin that they would restart. So we just had a big delay, but they did not. As it's a fun tournament, so we're not enforcing too strong of a control here. And Quick is, I think, an honest guy, I hope, but give them the benefit of the doubt. They have to get top 4 here, and that's going to be very, very difficult, as we're not streaming Silent Demars, but Silent Demars seems unbeatable. Someone here amongst those 4 players is going to stop their runs on those tracks 11 to 15. 11 is pretty technical with those turns at the start. Kapupik and Moonrim finishing exactly at the same time. Track 12 is a full speed one. You want to keep your speed all the time, and there is one pillar in the middle of one turn in the end that can kill your run.
Yeah, that's basically it. We'll see how this. You've also got some jumps here. There's a bit of it's super punishing basically. If you for some reason you've taken a turn poorly and you've lost some speed, these gaps will just totally crush you. There goes the pillar for Rasta Bobby. There it goes for Sailing to Mars, Moonrim, Kerpweek. No one got completely destroyed on 12 here. But, you know, it's certainly if someone does that, they're out. They're done.
Yeah.
But probably no one will, and that means it's going to come down to all the tiny little optimizations all over the place. An interesting one happening on the poolside level here, where you actually crash into the wall intentionally, is this very short way to slow down and turn, it turns out, and you kind of need to do both those things in that place, so it turns out to actually be beneficial to do that.
Oh no, no one goes for the skip. There is an insane skip bouncing off the railing in the middle of that track. I want to see it. Oh, Moonrim takes a weird bump here and finishing at the exact same time as Kerpweek. I want to see that skip on stream, on Speed Gaming for UD7 sometime, but maybe that will never happen. Sailing to Mars is plugged in here. Sailing to Mars first on both previous turns, and really feels very strong today on Trackmania. A little bit ahead of Rasta Bobby and moves quickly through track 14 here. As I said, you want to take the very large curves on the dirt segment here. Is that not pushing it too far, Sailing to Mars, please?
Yeah, that was pretty crazy. The railings, so the dirt section is doubly punishing because you want to be on the outsides because they're banked. They will help you turn. But the outsides of the dirt sections have the worst railings. The barriers have all these little gaps in them, and if you drive into one of those little gaps, they will not move. They are completely immovable, so your car will just stop dead on them, and it's so easy for that to happen on these turns. Sailing to Mars, a bit of a... He's brave for sure. Heading into the final track for everyone, a very long multi-lap track with kind of two parts where you need to take that small little turn heading into the cactuses, and then one right there as well heading into this low speed or engine killing section. When you drive over the red X's, you lose the ability to accelerate. You kind of coast until the next checkpoint where you get your engines back online.
Track 15 is very technical because of those few zigzags, and if you don't negotiate the turns perfectly, you are going to lose too much speed entering those red crosses, and that's going to translate into multiple I would say seconds, but that would be exaggerating, but lots of time. What is the unit of time here? A tenth of a second is...
Millisecond.
Millisecond is but millisecond is too short to be relevant, right? Is
centisecond.
Centisecond, maybe that's it. But Moonrim finishes in third place here, but that's going to be down to the in-game time. Those runners did not crash, did not make any mistakes, and finished very close all together. Kerpweek, Sailing to Mars, Moonrim, and Kerpweek might be there for the final run, and the final run is going to be only our top 4 on all 15 tracks back to back to see who's the best on Trackmania 2 here for the UD7 category.
We also have some racers off stream, so we're not sure who among these 4 or more are going to be the ones. The times are starting to come in. Sailing to Mars, predictably up top, actually tied in points with Rasta Bobby. ND Shepard with a 45-second time.
That's fast.
Found the big skip in level 1 to warp to the end now, as the correct time does come in. ND Shepard looks like...
by a second is going to be cut off.
What do we do? I guess we cut him off.
Yeah.
They're tied in points, but...
The tie isn't points, but in UD7 points matters the most. But in such a fun tournament today, it's going to be down to the second. I think I'm not I'm not managing that specific tournament, so they're going to decide, and we're going to see what's decision here. But that's very close, like 3:38 for both Kerpweek and Devil Tifa and Moonrim. Right a second behind them, but look at the times: 3:35, 3:36, 3:38, 3:38, 3:39, and then a big gap, a 6-second gap with Andy Shepard. Goes this at 3:47. Max Red had something terrible happen to them, I guess, with the 420, but that's maybe just like one tiny railing on level 14 that blocks you completely and you lose like 13 seconds directly, and maybe then after you've lost and you make a mistake on level 15 and you're completely done.
Yeah, it's also possible on some of those banked turns to just like get some air and just like leave the track.
Oh yeah.
And there's no, like, you have to reset all the way back to another checkpoint. And there's also, of course, the very silly but very possible mistake that you accidentally press the reset key. It's, when you're grinding this game over and over and like something goes a little bit wrong, you're used to pressing that button and going again. And so when you get into a race, you need to kind of control that instinct. And it's possible that, that was another way that this huge gap opened up.
All right, so I don't know. I guess what's been decided is that Moonrim is off the charts here. Rasta Bobby, Sandomars, Devil Tifa, and Kapukwik are our final fours. We can see the PBs on stream here, and the top part of the screen feels untouchable, but the bottom part of the screen, Devil Tifa and Kapukwik are going to be to do their best, and no mistakes whatsoever, no wall crashes, no nothing, and hope that Rasta Bobby and Sandomars are going to have a failure, an engine failure somewhere in the tracks. But do remember that for the Black Star you want to be on top 3 here, so the race between Devil Tifa and Kapukwik is very meaningful for your player card.
Very, very meaningful if you value your player card as much as I do. It is a very cool thing. You can go. We take a look at them at the start of our tournaments when we flash up the players. It's a way to communicate everything you've done in the season, all of your progress, filling up bars, lighting up stars. It is a very poetic thing, I suppose, that I've ended up with, but it's cool. It's a lot of fun. So we'll find out who gets those black stars. Racing off through the tunnels with the concrete in the middle are very difficult. Devil Tifa does not negotiate that turn very well. It kind of crashes a little bit. He has to brake for this turn, but so it's kind of a better time than some to lose speed, but still that one hurt quite a bit, about 2 seconds behind the others on this track. Well, perhaps, we'll see. Sailing to Mars is going to get like a 36? Yeah, okay, so about 2 seconds.
So Devil Tifa is the only one among the 3 that got a Black Star on Minit just before. So he's the only one that could go for the hat trick here, getting all 3 Black Stars, but that's a long shot by now. First they have to tackle that second track here, a full speed one. You never want to slow down, but you want to drift a little bit on that final turn like Rasta Bobby is doing right now, so you get to the finish at full speed. Devil Tifa does that great, and Sandomars is... Maybe they've started a little bit late, maybe I don't know, but it's always weird, those games that are timed in-game time because of such long loads. You never know exactly. It feels like Sandomars should be ahead by now. I'm not sure what happened. Devil Tifa and Kapukwik very, very close together. That track 3 is very difficult to optimize because of those jumps at the end. You never know exactly how your car is going to land, and having the best bounces is never a definite thing.
Looks like everyone kind of hold on. Kapukwik was probably the most unbalanced, and Sailing to Mars maybe the most balanced. As long as you've got one tire on the ground, you're going to be hitting those arrows and getting that speed boost at the end, so that's nice. Even if it's only one tire at a time as your car rocks from almost clockwise from tire to tire. Very tricky turn coming up for Rasta Bobby here, and looks like he's through okay. Devil Tifa as well. Then Kapukwik, who crashes a little bit there, so that's like half a second at least lost on that turn. That's a shame.
That's like 50 cents a second. If we decided that was the meaningful unit of time for Trackmania, that's 50 time. 50 speed lost here, and that's a lot actually. You never want to crash because the time you lose goes very, very quickly. Rasta Bobby starts track 5 here, one of the multi-lap tracks for in these categories. So one of the places where you can lose the most time, and it goes smoothly. Like those turns on the dirt are maybe the most forgiving ones. Except for that one final one with the warning sign on top. You want to go exactly at the correct speed, and Rastabobi keeps a lot of speed here. Does great. Sandemars dips down to 140. Kerpukvik does great as well on that track, and the race between Devil Tifa and Kerpukvik on the bottom part of the screen is on. Like, Devil Tifa wants his Black Star. He values the player card a lot since UD2. And they want to go as fast as possible. Obviously, Rastabobi and Sandemars Rastabobi is so far ahead of Sandemars that I feel he's going to win that race, maybe. But the most silly mistake will cost you everything in Trackmania 2.
So far, everyone's managed to negotiate that turn, that one turn that's here very well. Kind of understanding how difficult it is actually to do these big bank turns. You want to get up really high to help your turning and while keeping a lot of speed, and then kind of race downwards into the final end of the turn. They're doing a big jump here, actually over a whole section of track where you can go down a hill to the left and then back up the hill to the right, and it's like a whole hairpin situation that you just fly right over if you've got enough speed. Don't think it's going to be a concern that anyone doesn't have enough speed to do that. Rastabobi, first one across the finish line on this difficult track, followed by Sailing Mars, Devil Tifa, and Kerpukvik. We're all very close, but again, with the loading time differences and stream delay differences, it's hard to say who's actually in the lead. We'll kind of treat things as if they appear as they are on stream, I suppose, and then we'll get the true story once everyone uploads their final times.
So that would be Rastabobi first, second Sandemars, third Devil Tifa, fourth Kerpukvik, but Sandemars, Devil Tifa, and Kerpukvik are within the same like meter. They're very, very close together, and Rastabobi is about like 20 meters ahead. Very close together those players are, and they will. Oh, Kerpukvik has a weird bounce on the railing here and loses a bunch of time here. Sadly, is going to finish about 2 seconds, 3 seconds behind Devil Tifa, and that's the most meaningful time loss we've seen in this entire race since the beginning.
Yeah, and while there was that one time Kerpukvik crashed into the wall immediately after we said how fantastic they were doing, but that moment aside,
that was the previous turn, right? The previous
in this turn,
in those tracks since the first track here. Those players, everything is reset between turns, so it's okay. If you crashed as much as you did as Kerpukvik and still are qualified in the best of 4 Trackmania players here, you're doing great, I think. Devil Tifa is going to finish right behind Sandemars. Kerpukvik a little bit behind, but not much once again. Time goes so quickly in Trackmania. B08 here has a very weird turn after those world rides, and you have to slow down so much. I never know how to take that very specific one.
Yeah, it's maybe the hardest turn of these 15 tracks. It comes up after this second wall ride here. As you hit the checkpoint, you want to just hold brake for like a long time as you go over to the left, and then eventually you want to let off and start accelerating again. But it is the amount of speed you have to lose in such a short amount of time there's nothing else like it among the green tracks here, and everyone negotiated that very well. Moving on to track 9.
Feels like Sandemars did that B08 very well. Has a better menuing as well as compared to Rastabobi, and Sandemars actually is ahead now. They were racing a little bit from behind since track 2, and did great, no mistake apparently, and they're just moving very, very quickly. Those turns are very well done here, and is it going for the skip here where you go in between? No, they take the... Oh no, they did. Okay, they went right next to the umbrella. If you collide with it, this is the strongest umbrella in the entire world. It's made of titanium or whatever. It's a mix between all those crazy fantastic metals, and it's never moving. Like a full car at 300 kilometers per hour is not going to move it an inch, and so Sandemars is moving onto B10 here. That's where Quick crashed fantastically earlier. So let's see if the tracks treats the players better.
Sailing Damar is really doing a good job on the sections of the track that dip down. It's very easy to kind of fly off of them a little bit, so you want to be doing some extra side-to-side movement to make sure that you are keeping your tires on the track as much as you can, breaking through that very tough corner. Everyone doing well on the dirt as well. Quick coming out with 215 or so on the speedometer is a good way to kind of check how players are taking turns, see how much speed they have coming out of a turn. That's the real key. Is the straightaway afterwards is where you want to have your speed and ride it out. So Rasta Bobby, see for example, had more like 221 or a little more coming out of that turn. So those little things add up in a big way over the course of a whole track and a whole race. Currently trailing Sailing Damars by almost half a second, maybe a little more. Sailing Damars is just every track just seems to gain a little bit more.
Yep, I don't know how they're doing it. Like it's very close to Minit in that sense, where saving frames in seconds really seems difficult and almost impossible in certain tracks. But Sandermoss on B11, I know exactly how they're doing it to save time. Those drift they're initiating by actually releasing the gas and moving and braking at the same time, and then accelerating away. It gives you a weird drift at low speed that allows you to take those turns very, very cleanly, as Sandermoss did. We are moving into B12 here, and Sandermoss is ahead by quite a lot now, apparently, and this is the full speed one, where you don't want to collide in a pillar, but I don't know why it seems so easy when you're watching those experienced runners on Trackmania, like, to dodge those obstacles.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of things that experienced Trackmania players do that looks a lot easier than it is. And Sailing Damars, are you kidding? Please.
Oh my, he's not going to make it here. No!
Oh my God, he did. He did. Oh wait, but he didn't get the checkpoint.
Yeah, he did not get the checkpoint, and that's going to entirely kill their run. What have we done? I don't know. It's crazy, and they lost about 12 seconds, and now they're completely behind all those three other players. Beat 13 is starting. I hope someone is going for the skip once again, but with such big thing to win being...
Well, Sailing Damars might now, right? And after that huge mistake, he might be feeling he has to.
We'll see. We'll keep an eye out for that. Quick and Devil Tifa are going to play it safe, and Sandermoss is playing it safe as well. You want to bounce on the railing here, and if you are aiming for the actual road, you're not going for the skip. So very nicely done here. The last turn is difficult for Sandermoss, but yeah, the mistake they've made, sadly, is going to be very hard to come by. All three other runners did not have anything happen to them.
All right, racing on the grass here. I don't understand why the top players take the route they do on the grass. They swing out like really wide and then come back in. There's something they understand about moving on the grass that I don't, because it is so easy to do the wrong thing and lose a whole bunch of time. We got Devil Tifa in the lead, I think. Quick just a little bit. No, Rasta Bobby is in the lead. Devil Tifa just behind, followed by Quick, and then Sailing Damars, who, despite that really, really bad mistake, is not like much further behind Quick than Quick is behind Devil Tifa and is behind Rasta Bobby. So, went from first to last, but is still kind of at least a part of the pack. So it speaks to their ability to race before and after the mistake, that they're still kind of with everyone here.
Yeah, the final track, B15, 3 turns. Those no engine sections can be devastating, and those cacti were at the start in that corner, the ramp can be difficult to navigate. If you are not able to align yourself perfectly, you are going to bounce weirdly off something. So you have to pay very close attention to how you're moving. Obviously, those turns are not the hardest. You cannot go too fast in those sections. Anyways, Devil Tifa is moving quickly. Rasta Bobby is almost done, and Sander Moss is running from behind, but really is not letting anything go. They're taking their best shot. Maybe something terrible happened to someone else, who knows? So you have to give your best, whatever happened, obviously.
Yeah, he also does a good job of not getting lapped on the final track. Actually did get into the third lap before anyone else finished, like Rasta Bobby, like Devil Tifa, like Creekweek, all finishing, and then sailing to Mars with 109 or so on this track. Strong performance all around. Is basically that one pillar was kind of the story of this race, and I thought he was somehow gonna make it. Like I've never, if something bad happens on that track, I never make that jump, but he made it over the jump and then indeed over the checkpoint. If he had hit that checkpoint and reset immediately, maybe something better than last. But oh man, to get stuck, to miss the checkpoint and then get stuck upside down next to it is just, it's a heartbreaker.
Yes, so we'll have the final result, but wow, this is actually way closer than expected. 2 seconds. Sander Mars probably lost 12 seconds to that mistake. Feels like it's a lot. And Devil Tifa makes it by not much, but takes the advantage of Sander Mars' mistake and gets there on top 3 for the Black Star. But next up is Neo Turf Master, and the category is going to be very, very similar to what has been done for Trackmania. We are going to play 6 holes per turn. You have to be on top 12, 8, and 4 for each part of the speedrun. We could have went for best least amount of shot to get to the next part, but those runners are so good. Everyone would have gotten like birdies everywhere, and would have ended up with 25 runners on the final turn. So better go with time, as we are doing speedrun here.
I want you to do the low shot count anyway.
That would be fun.
And I want the playoffs to go into the other courses that no one has practiced at all, and just see whose raw skill and reading the green or whatever is comes across. This is Neo Turf Masters is one of my favorite games of the season. It's really easy to just pick up and play, especially if you played a golf game before. It is absolutely just a golf game, but playing for speed has its fair share of little differences, and I love the intro video actually that they put together. The stupid little cutaways. I like that the every character in this game is like the same white guy copy pasted with different hair. And I don't know, just all the little sound effects, the voice samples and stuff. This game has captured my heart in a lot of ways. It's my favorite thing, up there with Lawnmower to watch people race. And it should be good. We've got, I'm not sure how many people are entering for the Neo Turf Masters race, but up on stream, we've got Mohawk, who is the record holder, I think, at least for UD. We've got Skunk Off in the top right, very talented runner who qualified for top 8 last season. We've got Soggy Toost, who has been doing extremely well last season and this season, and Max Fred, who we saw earlier on Minit in the bottom left. Everyone's probably going to be playing the Putt Master, the Japanese golfer, who looks mysteriously an awful lot like every other golfer from every other part of the world.
They're the same with different hair. Like let's be serious. It looks like the same guy that has disguised, to play multiple times.
Coat and glasses. Entered himself into the tournament 6 times.
With fake passports. Anyway, I need to learn how to play with the Japanese. It feels like they have the good balance between speed and accuracy and driving, as you want to go as fast as possible. Being able to drive the ball as far as possible is good, but when it's the number of shots that counts, right? It's not being closer, and then still having an extra shot doesn't save you much time. Something very, very important as well is being close to the pin as you enter the green, because the animation of the ball slowly rolling into the hole actually takes a lot of time. So you want to know and to aim for the pin, and the race starts. We are going to play the first 6 hole of the Japanese course here. Mohawk kept the world record for about 6 hours before RNG. The American runners that had the record before that took it back, so obviously they had some gas left, you know, they could do better, and stopped before grinding the best time. So Mohawk and Skunkov are together on the second shot here, entering the green at the same time.
Mohawk barely putting the ball on the green. You really want to be on the green instead of off of it to get the sort of putting camera. You can putt from off the green. You can putt out of the rough in this game, actually, but it's incredibly hard to be precise with it. Hopefully MaxFrad's stream is resolved, but of the other 3, they are currently on track 2. They're going to be trying to hit it between the rough and the bunker. Now it looks like Soggytooth is going left. Mohawk managed to hit them over, both of them, with a perfect shot. Very hard to hit a perfect shot with many golfers, the putt master here included. A really nice shot, incredibly close to the pin, actually. Skunkov is in a very difficult distance away from the hole, actually. There's this prompt comes up when you start a putt that says like get ready to putt, and then it goes away after a very arbitrary amount of time, and you immediately start to swing. So if you need to hit like the 3rd or 4th bar on your putting meter, it's very difficult to anticipate when that is going to stop and when your swing is going to start. So you can't just mash the button on a super short putt, and you do have to react in time. I've never seen that animation of the ball spinning the way I just saw from Mohawk. What?
You have to press down between your strengths and the place you hit the ball, and if you keep press down during that, you keep it pressed, you're going to have a backspin on your ball, and it's going to stop faster when it's rolling. It's very important on some tracks, and it tells you to slow down and stop exactly on the green when you're entering it. So yeah, I'm not kidding. That's the game has a lot of hidden mechanics, and you are going to see a lot of it. But Sugitooth entered the bunker here. And misses the shot to exit it, so they're going to lose a lot of time here. Skunkov sadly whiffed the hole here, and Mohawk takes the lead by quite a bit now.
It is the worst. Whenever the hole is located on a slope, it is incredibly hard to navigate, because by the time the ball gets to the hole, it's going to be going slowly. Obviously, you want it to get inside the hole. And then when it's moving very slowly, that means the slope is going to affect it very drastically. So you absolutely need to aim very, very far to the side of the hole whenever you're hitting at an angle into a slope, like Mohawk just had his ball roll gently down a slope, is thankfully going to be able to have a straight putt. At that kind of difficult distance, is going to get an eagle here. Driving to the green into is not so easy. Mm-hmm. Also, a concern is winning the longest drive contest, actually, is if you're trying to do that, you might hit a shot that is the longest drive, and you lose like 20 seconds while the game congratulates you on hitting this longest drive.
Oh, so it just was so far away that putt was almost impossible, but they're getting to the hole 5 here. The last hole for that first turn is hole 6, so the players are going to be done very, very shortly. Mohawk actually entered the hole, and with the birdie and the eagle, and doing so great as they did, they're probably first. Skunkov sadly gets into the out of bounds, so if you enter the very dark green grass, the game stops you from continuing, even if you're like, it feels like you could hit the ball, you cannot. So oh wow, Sugitooth hits the pin here that deviates the ball and gets them out of the green, but they're going to go for a putt here. Sadly, it's too short, and one last hit, I hope, and they finish right before Skunkov. MaxFrad is going to go for the final shot here, the putt on hole 5. Nicely done. The Japanese golfer is so good at putting. It's insane how bad the Brazilian is. Like, he has like a force of how the putt bar you have for the Japanese golfer.
Yeah, you actually have like a different looking meter depending on what putting skill you have, and so the granularity for the Brazilian power golfer who has the max power and minimum on every other stat, it just has like these big chunky boxes because he just cannot get the precision going. Max Fred with the slope and the green working together to conspire against this ball, and he missed. See, he's on this third bar here. Very difficult to hit a 3-bar putt, especially if you have to aim a little bit at the start. The timing on it is just very tricky. You're very likely to under or over hit. So he actually let the bar go all the way to the end and come back. Certainly that lets you line it up a lot better, but it takes a while for that meter to go. So in a speed run, you do lose quite a bit of time. We can take a look now at some of the final times as they come in. I'm curious to see what Mohawk ended up with. We were just playing to the 6th course there. We can see that currently Sak and Ichikura are leaders, but I don't see Mohawk's time yet, so I'll be curious to see where that one ends up.
Here we go.
Yep, okay.
Just gotta wait for the first place to refresh, so Mohawk is actually 17 seconds ahead of Sak and Ishikura. How is that possible?
I don't know how he does it.
It's like... okay, so we've just seen... Maybe that's the bias. We've just seen Minit and Trackmania, where it's very, very difficult to save just a second. And maybe on New Turf Master, it's easier, but not much, right? It's all about the tiny optimization and getting as close as possible to the pin, and not getting trolled by the closest to the pin contest or the longest drive contest, but that usually doesn't happen. And Sugitust is in 8th place. They had a very bad hole 4, and they're, you know, pretty happy with that, but I'm not sure if we're going to see Max Fred actually, because they were tied in point, but not in time with Mushronkipet at the 12th place. So maybe only qualified are Mohawk, Sak, Ishikura, Julian, Class, and the Shepard, Sugitust, Ghostdeath, Morgamus, Skunkoff, Devil Tifa, and Mushronk. Devil Tifa is still there, but it's one of their worst game, Neo Turf Master. One of the two they don't like being Neo Turf Master and Lawnmower, so they don't like the one we like.
What?
To
No,
see.
those are my favorites. He's got it all wrong.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you should make a team together where you play Lawnmower and Neo Turf Master, and they would play some of the others.
It's a good idea, actually. Because then I have Devil Tifa on my team.
Yeah,
I'll have you know the stats here. If you look at who currently has the best time in the team tournament for both Lawnmower and Neo Turf Master, it is me, along with my partner Meow Mix Mix and Molly Man, who currently has the best 2-person time on both of those games. Nice. So you're speaking to an expert who didn't know about a major mechanic in Neo Turf Master and just found that out live on stream. But hey, succeeding despite that speaks to some. All right, let's just move on to
some true skill, for sure. I do respect, to be honest,
nice
anyone,
shot by
and
Skunkoff.
Anyone that can drive the ball so precisely on those greens. Ishikura is a little bit off, and that putt is pretty difficult. Those two tiny hill, wherever the pin is, you will have to adjust. And it's too short, 1 dot away, and Ishikura plays the American guy, I think. This is a different toupee. It's not their hair. It's the same guy with different disguise. Let's remember that. But the hat is not going to trick us for the fake Japanese golfer that is going to drive here for Mohawk. That lands in the heavy rough. The drive is going to be pretty difficult. They're going to hit full strength, I guess. Oh, not even with and land in the bunker. Okay, eagle for Skunkoff that takes the lead by quite a margin here.
Wow, Skunkoff is playing kind of amazing. I have a hard time imagining how those first 2 holes could have gone any faster. Oh wow, it's a fantastic putt from Mohawk. Very long distance, up a slope, down into the hole, and Ichikura just lips out.
Skunkov almost landed in the water here. They were going for a full strength spot, and that was a little bit too hard. When you're not on the green, you have the pin, in the middle of the hole, and it becomes very difficult to land directly without a putt. Wow, Mohawk gets very close to doing that, but sadly they're going down the hill and will have a fairly difficult putt here, but they're experienced with the game and feels like there's no issue whatsoever. Sugi Toost starts hole 10 as Skunkov is already halfway there. Ho, living on a prayer. But Skunkov, wow, misses all the bunker and the holes and just drives so perfectly close to the pin.
Difficult putt though. The green is going to pull the ball to the left, and he was hitting downhill. So I liked the way it looked when he hit it, and then it didn't work out. So I probably would have missed that putt as well. Mohawk with also a bit of a tricky putt uphill and slope to the left. He didn't turn it very far, and he needed to turn it a little bit more. It is the kind of thing where if he had more time, he probably would have adjusted correctly, but he had the distance to the hole was such that he had to putt that very quickly. So you only have like a split second to make a decision and adjust as much as you need to. It is actually weirdly tense to speedrun this game. Looks like both Sawgetooth and Skunkov are going to be laying it up or trying to on the 11th hole. Skunkov is in the rough really early on. He's still going to be able to drive, whereas Sawgetooth in the water is in a much worse situation.
I don't understand. Sometimes when you land out of bound in the water like that, the ball comes back next to the on the shore, next to where you landed on the water, and sometimes the ball go all the way back to where you shot it from. I don't understand why. Maybe it's I don't know, and it feels weird to me to understand such intricate rules, but anyway, you never want to land out of bound. Mohawk gets a very good score here, birdie, and is going to catch up with Skunkov actually.
Wow, yeah, all it takes is one. It's so hard with this game. Skunkov is probably a little bit upset after such a fantastic start. He was looking at, I mean, I don't know if anyone's keeping track of your PB across the middle section of these 18 holes, but he would have had like a gold run, I'm pretty sure. That was a fantastic opening with a nice drive here. Should have a pretty clean putt to the hole. Mohawk lands in the trees, but just barely squeaks onto the green. Has a long putt, but again, should be fairly straightforward with no hills or anything in the way. Edgeker about to tee off on the 12th here.
I guess Skunkov is going to end the second turn in first place because that was very good from them. Even though they did not get so clean last holes, and beating Mohawk on any part of any segment of that game shows how good and how practiced you are. Ishikar proves that that other golfer is maybe interesting in a speedrun setting. I don't know what decides what's the fastest. The current world record plays with the Brazilian, but Mohawk has a very good sum of best with the Japanese golfer. So I don't fully understand how you save all those final seconds. I do understand that you have to be as close as possible to the pin in as few shots as possible, and reaction time is very important. So you don't wait for the bar to go back and forth to drive exactly how far you want. Golf games are all about math and evaluating the distances and the angle and choosing and deciding how hard you want to hit the ball. But the times are going to roll in, and we're going to have the final scores for those 12 players.
This is, it's one of my favorite games because of the randomness. Actually, it is kind of the bane of speedrunners' existence in some cases, like maybe Kirby or something. But it is the kind of randomness that can be accounted for in this game, and it is the kind of thing that has to be. You can't really just plan for it. You can't really just be like, if there's a 2-mile-an-hour wind in this direction on this hole, like maybe you could have an insane spreadsheet or something. But really, there's a lot of just reading very quickly, where is the wind, where am I, where is the hole, where is the slope, what is the grain, and then hitting a shot incredibly quickly. So it's very frantic at moments trying to parse all that information and execute on it. And it's those moments that I think make this really fun. I'm hoping that the players also have fun, and probably Skunkov had a lot of fun beating Mohawk by 7 whole seconds, and then an incredible tie for second position between Mohawk, Bad Julian, Ghost Death, and Class, followed very closely behind by Sack. Then a bit of a gap before we get Sagitust, Moucheron, and then we saw Echikur on stream, who had a bit of troubles and wasn't quite able to crack the top 8 here, along with ND Shepard, Mogames, and Ashton.
It's those players are doing great. How are we not qualifying them? I mean, ND Shepard, we've seen a lot of them on stream from the previous stream. Their player card speaks from itself. Like it's full for a lot of the games. Currently 15 on the leaderboard, 5th place on the race leaderboard. And sadly, we're doing only one game, and Neo Turfmaster is the most competitive game of the entire UD7 selection, right? We have, I don't know, maybe 50 runners that are sub 15, and I don't know. I don't know how we got so many players to play Neo Turfmaster, but yeah, the top 50 players is at 14, 15 and less. It's Sagitust, being as good as they are on all games, is currently on place 49th. I don't know. I don't know how the players are so good. I really need to practice way more that game apparently. But Mohawk, Class, Loremi, and Bajulian are top 4 currently, and Mohawk, Bajulian are second on that second phase here. So we'll see who end up top 4, because for those final 6 holes we're only going to qualify 4 runners, and hole 15, 16 and 18 are the hardest ones by far. Bajulian maybe put a little bit too much enthusiasm in his timer. Like, I understand that time is very important when you're speedrunning, but maybe that's too much. But the runners are getting ready and the race should start soon.
I love the idea of just like a set of zeros and a dot taking out to the golf course, picking up the club, and swinging away. I mean, really, when you're playing this game, you're not looking at that part of the screen at all. You're never really looking at that part of the screen. So we'll see how this goes. Mohawk opens up by hitting into the heavy rough. It is a very difficult shot to land on the fairway here. Thankfully, you can play out of the heavy rough. It's just a lot harder to make this shot. The Mohawk just nails it. Indeed, the heavy rough probably stopped his ball very quickly, so it might have actually been a huge advantage getting in with the birdie.
Yeah, Skunkov was so close to landing in the water here, but they're making it into the green. That's going to be a par. Yeah, and so one extra shot to get there, and that's lots of time lost. I don't know how long a single shot takes, but I should measure that at some point. Sagitust whiffing again. How? I don't know if they're trying to hit very, very low to get some extra length or something, but that's whiffing takes a lot of time, and sadly, or they did that on purpose because they seen that they had the wrong setting. You can do that to prevent yourself from losing even more time.
I would, yeah, maybe. I just love the idea of professional golfer going to the tee and just missing the first shot entirely. Raises a lot of questions about whether or not this player should even be here. A fantastic drive by Mohawk is 92 centimeters away. When you're that close, you can really just kind of hit the button, just mash it, and it'll go in. Skunkov doing a good job of driving to this little patch in the middle here, as well as Sagitust, and Ghost Death is going to barely creep on there. All of them are going to be able to drive to the hole, but they're trailing Mohawk by quite a bit, who is on the worst hole. It's the worst. We'll see how this goes here. Does not touch the trees and barely lands up on top of this hill. 385 yards to the hole, so he is not going to be able to drive to the hole on the second hit. He's going to have to chip it down as far as he can on the fairway. 252 yards around the trees. With the wind is going to help him out a little bit here. We'll see if he can get there.
Nice!
Oh, he
that
lands on the
bounce was so
downslope.
good. If you land exactly on the downslope, you will have that boost, and it helps so much. I don't know how part of that is skill, how is luck involved. Like, do you aim for that, but sometimes you miss? I don't know. Skunkoff lands on the rough here, meaning they're going to drive as far as they can, selecting their club. But the trees are going to prevent that, and that's a very, very rough spot here. A downhill, that putt is, well, it's shot is, yeah, feels impossible.
Nice putt from Mohawk, barely holding on, sinking that putt. Mohawk is on fire, and Ghost Death is on fire in a different way. He is burning alive on course. He is hitting his 6th shot here to the hole from the heavy rough through the tree, and didn't hit the downslope, so he is not going to get kicked onto the green. I'm pretty sure he is about to get kicked off the course. If he can chip onto the green and then sink it, he will finish on his 8th shot. Meanwhile, Mohawk on the last hole did a really good job of the first hit off the tee is the hard part. Once you get on the green, it's usually pretty straightforward. He sinks it. He is going to get a 330 to finish off not the back 9, the back 6, I guess.
Oh wow, so he just missed the tee shot here and has to start all over again. This is the edge of the world, so you golf here, and there's just that huge like gap. I don't know what setting, and there's a weird pillar here. Sadly, Skunkoff got triple bogey on the previous track, losing a lot of time, and did not make it on the green in the first shot, meaning that, yeah, Mohawk is, you know, so far ahead. Like, those 6 holes make the difference, I guess, between the best runners. And nice strat from Costes here, landing on the green on the final hole. So many things to take into account here.
Out of bounds again, hitting the stroke limit after 8 strokes. They just they kick you off the course straight up. It is allowed. I don't know if it's ever actually faster to do that on purpose, but it's not allowed in the goal. There will be some arbitration involved if it seems like someone is doing that. I don't think anyone will. So it's just kind of an unfortunate thing. Yeah, I wonder, like, if you just like mash the button straight off the tee whenever like you're surrounded by out of bounds, or like if there's a way to. Anyway, it's not of our concern because we're just going to try to hit the ball into the hole. Skunkoff failing to do exactly that. Actually, he's pretty short here. He didn't get up on top of the hill, so he has a much higher shot into a 9-mile-an-hour wind straight to the left. The wind makes a really drastic event. A 10. I don't know if I've ever seen 10 miles per hour before. So he's hitting the ball really low here to try to have the wind, but he cannot negotiate this incredibly powerful wind. It makes a big difference. Like if it's like 1 or 2 miles per hour, it barely does much. But like the difference between that and 5 and 6 and then 7, 8, 9, it is a huge event, huge effect on the ball. So Skunkoff really just kind of fell apart there on the final hole. Didn't finish the last 2 after doing so well in the middle section. We can take a look at who did do well, namely Mohawk, continuing to do phenomenal. Class, who we did not have on stream, finishing in second, just 6 seconds back. Sack, who is one of the first, it was in top 3 on the first turn, is back in the top 3, joined basically by Ghost Death, who's just 1 second behind, tied in points. They are going to be our top 4.
Yes, I think Skunkoff is going to be a little bit behind. Lenemek did not put a time yet on screen. I'm not sure. I know the Love Golf game. Lenemek is a runner I know in real life, and he was thrilled being able to play Neo Turf Master for UD7. Golf game is a niche genre that has a very cool audience. Actually, a lot of runners from the UD like golf game. Jant is one of those runners, one of the best runners in the UD, one of the finalists from UD3. And yeah, apparently some runners are very into golf games, so it's pretty cool to try to go as fast as you can. So the top 4 is going now to play all 18 holes back to back and try to be as fast as possible. And kind of feels like Mohawk is a very, very tough competitor. Like, I don't know what you would have to do to beat them on the game. I don't know exactly what magic it would involve, but Class, Sack, and Ghostess can do it, actually, considering their PBs. Any extra shot, any mistake, any bad luck, any 18 strengths wind is going to blow all your chances away.
I think it would take some kind of dark magic to curse Mohawk rather than boost your own ability, because you have to do something to slow him down. He is just absolutely incredible. It is, getting the times that Mohawk is getting compared to everyone else on this game is 31 seconds ahead of the next closest person on the leaderboard. Like, there are very few games that there is this huge discrepancy between first and second. Something about golf has just clicked with Mohawk that it just hasn't for others. Maybe part of it is knowing you can put spin on the ball mid-shot.
Yeah, that's it. He was the only one.
A bit of it. He didn't tell anyone until that cutscene played with the ball spinning and everyone started asking questions and it all came out. No. He just is that good, and it's gonna be tough. But this is a game where lots of things can happen. One small mistake can put you in the heavy rough and lead to having to make a very difficult shot that will make your next shot even harder. Now you're hopping from bunker to bunker, and that's leaving aside having horrible wind luck and not being able to figure out how to get the ball out of not anywhere but out of bounds. It can be tough. It can be really tough even for the best. So everyone's got a shot. Everyone is very strong, played really well today, and I can't wait to see how this pans out.
Yeah, the players are getting ready, and the race should start quickly. The top 4 here plays all with the Japanese golfer, so probably just the best. That's probably the speedrun character for those races. So here we go, character selection for all 4 players. And let's go. So your initial ranking is random, doesn't affect the run at all, and the wind is random, and that can have some impact. Some runners are into the conspiracy theory that the best you do, the worse the wind is. Obviously, maybe that's just bad luck. But first hole, very, very easy actually. The course has a nice gentle difficulty curve, and everybody should get a birdie on the first hole here.
Yeah, the green is completely flat, no green, so it's also very big. You just drive twice to anywhere on that thing, and then you've got a very, very straightforward putt. Assuming you're using a player who can putt. Mohawk not getting a perfect drive, but found the angle to negotiate between the bunkers and the rough. It is very difficult to get that angle that will work with the varying amounts of speed that you might get on your swing. Class overhitting to the green, whereas Ghostdeath almost put it right in there. Mohawk has a very difficult and long putt down a slope. He does manage to get it very well. It's hitting putts like this that is hugely important to keeping a good time in this game. You can't always get perfect shots right next to the pin every time. Sometimes you're going to have putts like that, and you have to sink them if you want to keep up. So, fantastic job, like we expected from Mohawk.
Closest to the pin contest can be bad for your health and your timer. If you are the closest, you are going to have the complete animation with a full artwork and showing how happy your player is to have nailed that contest, but that loses about 15 to 20 seconds. So you really want to do as good as you can, but not too good. And the players are super close together. Ghostess and Class a couple of seconds within each other, but Mohawk takes the lead by quite a lot here.
Yep, driving to the right here, trying to stay on the fairway, but around the trees. Looks like all 3 players have managed to do exactly that, chipping it up onto one of the more difficult hole locations for Mohawk, trying to putt onto this slope here. Yeah, that's exactly what I was afraid of. The grain and the slope was going to be affecting that ball very strongly. So despite like greatly compensating for it wasn't enough.
No, and Ghostess, everybody
everyone is having
misses.
get in the hole. Okay, very close between Class and Mohawk. Ghosteth very close behind. Bogey par. Not a good hole.
So bogey is pretty bad for you because you have only per credit 3 holes you can play. A par costs you 1 hole, anything over par costs you 2, but a birdie will gain you 1 extra hole, and eagle will gain you 2. And you don't want to put credits back in the machine because it's going to not cost you money but time. There's a quick animation from gaining those new holes and being able to play again. So it's something to take into account. Whoa, very good from Class, almost getting into the hole there. Eagle for Mohawk, and Class has a birdie, very nice. And maybe Class is actually ahead because the eagle animation is longer and the birdie, oh, not that much. Okay, but Mohawk is just a couple of seconds ahead. Ghostess really close behind, and Ghostess has the same amount of shots per hole, but takes just a little bit more time to set up each shot, and that equates to some time loss.
Class ended up in the rough here, so has to overhit it a little bit. Can be hard to adjust. Kind of similar lies here for Class and Mohawk. Mohawk is a longer putt though, up a slope. He drains it exactly alongside Class. This is really fun to watch. These two. Ghosteth also has a easier putt that he manages to sink despite the grain kind of almost sending him outside. So keeping it close, heading into hole 7, which is a very, very straightforward hole. Tons of fairway to work with here, driving on the initial conditions. There is no wind for either of the players on top, so they've got a very easy, just kind of 100% drive here.
The exact same thing. The pin is at the same location, and they're very close together, doing the exact same thing. The putt is going to be a bit slower for Class, and so is about half a second behind.
See how Ghosteth has missed the green here, so he has to chip back on it, and he chips way over, so he's left himself with a very difficult putt. The green to the right, as well as the slope. I don't think he's adjusted enough. I don't think it's... Yeah, oh, it was so close, but not quite. Meanwhile, Mohawk and Class driving on hole 8. There's a whole kind of a knot here in the fairway that you want to drive to and post up on. Mohawk is going to try to curve the ball actually around some trees, and Class, I think, didn't like his power and decided to completely whiff the ball there. And he is going to land in the rough, so he's going to have a little more difficult of time. He's going to have to go up a club, I think. Or no, he's just going to try to overhit it, so we'll see how...
No! Oh my god, just barely.
Yeah.
And he's going to lose 2 shots at least compared to Mohawk. And Mohawk is going to gain a hole, and Class sadly is going to lose one, and you will have to put some more credits into the cabinet, and that's going to cost even more time. Class misses the putt, goes for double bogey now, and yeah, the Mohawk is not stopping for anything, so takes the lead by quite a lot, almost an entire hole now.
Ghosteth with a crazy putt, not quite able to get close there. That would have been pretty cool to see. I didn't even see Mohawk play this hole. It went by so fast. He's already got birdie animation playing. Here comes Class driving, and he's going to have to hit it up this slope, but at least it seems pretty cleanly straight up the hill, and there's no grain. Now, it is going to break a little bit to the left, so he is barely going to be able to get it in there.
Close.
Meanwhile, put it in the bunker. That when the cutscene plays, I'm always convinced it's going to roll into the bunker, but that might have been the first time I've ever seen it act on the lip there.
Oh, no,
and he now has a most impossible putt. I cannot imagine Mohawk makes this putt. Look at this.
Okay, so he aims quite a lot. There's no grain, but there's the hill, and yeah, he overcompensates actually the hill. When the slopes are at the start of your putt, that's where you have the most control and strength in your ball. There's no loss in speed due to the friction with the grass, and that's where the slopes affect the least your ball. And at the end of your putt, any tiny slope will deviate a lot your ball. So you have to take that into account, how close or far you are. Ghostess has a very difficult putt as well here, but no grain. Just a grain against him, so that's going to be too slow. Sadly, is going to. Oh no!
What?
Barely makes
what?
it.
How did it get up the hill against the grain? And with all right, I don't understand that one at all.
The hill was right next to where he was putting from, so that the hill was almost no effect. I was scared with the grain though, but the grain really affects a tiny bit your ball, not so much. Class bounce on the bridge here, and that was pretty funny. But goes for bar here, and Mohawk is still an entire hole ahead.
Yeah, he's doing phenomenally. He has drove 220 yards away from the hole, so the five wood, I guess. I never really thought about that. It's a 5 wood, but whatever it is, he's going to be able to use that 220-yard club to drive pretty much straight to the green. Putt against the grain a little bit, was counting on it to turn his ball a little bit more to the left, and it didn't quite get it done. So a tap in there to follow up. Ghost Death tapping in on the 11th, 1 hole back, and this did not get to the green, the green rather. So with a chip in that just barely bounces over the hole, Class is going to drop a little further behind Mohawk. I assume we'll see how this putt goes. Yes.
You cannot putt from the heavy rough, so you have to go with the 120 or 100-yard sandwich. But if you close, you have to do like 20%, 30%, and it's hard to adjust. So nicely done, still by Class. Lands on the heavy rough here, and Mohawk gets a birdie. The difference between those players really feels like a lot now, and Mohawk pulled ahead by many shots. Hole 14 closest to the pin contest. You don't want to land at 2 meters and 50 centimeters away or less, but Mohawk is going to be at 7 meters, 7 yards, so he's doing fine.
Class almost made a difficult putt. Mohawk setting up with one. Not as difficult, but did have to negotiate that slope there, and does. Ghost Death chipping into the heavy rough here. Absolutely not what he wanted. With a sandwich at full speed, he's just barely going to be able to get on the green. Has to go up and down 2 slopes here, with grain going pretty much perpendicular to his shot. So very difficult putt that is nowhere close, actually, and is in danger of rolling off the green a little bit. See if he can make sure he taps this in on the way back. Yep, no problem. Mohawk driving. He's going to post up pretty much right on top of this raised area here, so this should be a straightforward putt.
Nice.
Yes.
Birdie once again. Class had an out-of-bounds shot, so he's losing a little bit more time. And the putt is difficult. There's a big slope here. You want to putt a bit stronger, and gets a triple bogey on the hole. 16 strikes, 16 hole here for Mohawk. That gets barely on top of the hill with a weird bounce that gets him there. You want to go around those trees and on the fairway here, and then a straight big shot to the hole, hooking it to get past the hill and the trees. Sadly lands on the rough, but he can go for a putt here if he's feeling lucky.
Oh, Class. Look at, he landed his ball 37 centimeters away from the hole. Mohawk is able to putt for par here on the incredibly difficult 16. The way he hit that hook around the hill on his second shot was very, very hard to do very quickly. And he pretty much the second shot, pretty much nailed it. The third shot was the one that overhit
Look
it
at that
with the correct amount of power. 11. I've never seen 11 miles per hour went directly in his face. Figuring out the calculation on that difference, the 17, it is so easy to be short and fall into the abyss. So the fact that he pulled that off to the 360 around the hole, Mohawk is just styling now.
Class is on the bottom of the hill next to a tree. This is very difficult, and gets there, and is going to go a long way on a down slope here. Lands on the rough. Should be able to make it to the pin with the sandwich here at 50%. Difficult.
Ghost Death is 266 yards away with wind in his face. He's going to hammer it, and it's not going to get there. Shoot.
Yeah, 61 yard away in the heavy rough, but uphill. And you have to be careful not to hit it too strong here, because the heavy rough and rough are just like calculated as mouse, like a percentage of your maximum distance. So you have to figure out those numbers and adjust with your mask very, very quickly as the bar is quickly rising. You don't want to wait for multiple cycles, so you have to make the mass super quickly. Mohawk gets first place here in a single attempt and finishes in less than 13 minutes, as Ghostdeath and Class are finishing hole 17.
It was about a 12:30 according to the timer on stream, which is never perfect because of stream delay and all kinds of things, but a very, very good time. Certainly better than Class and Ghostdeath. Class doing a good job of driving to the top of this hill on 18. Not so easy to do that. His wind is pretty minor, and his power looks good here, so this should be pretty close. Yeah, with even with some grain, he should be able to no grain, so very easy putt to close it out. Ghostdeath is stuck. He's got to get up this hill.
Ooh,
The 9-iron I thought would have enough height, so he is hitting this ball at the max height.
So
Come
close.
on, come on.
That's
Oh,
less
man.
than half a meter away from the shore. He's going again for the same shot, but once with the wind in his face. That's were not enough at all. He's going to take a difficult decision, but wind 2 miles. Nope, no, once again. I've seen the wind go up to 17 or 18. I wonder what the max is, but it can have a big impact on your ability to get to some plays there. So Ghostdeath, Class and Mohawk are done. We don't know exactly where Sack is. They had stream difficulties, but apparently they've beaten Class by about 24 seconds here. And Ghostdeath got a nice 0 second, 0 frame time.
Yeah, that is very impressive. Oh, no, wait. Silly me. Who would have thought it was actually 14-12. Was keeping pace with Mohawk through the front 9, I guess, and then eventually started to have some problems. All it takes is one all it takes is one, really, one hole, one bad shot to turn one hole into a bad hole that loses you 25-30 seconds. You're constantly in danger of this in many points throughout the run, especially based off of like wind RNG and stuff like this. So that's just the way Neo Turf Master goes. Mohawk gonna be the victor for this round, getting that the Black Star along with Sack and Class. Great job from all these runners. Mohawk looks to be incredibly fearsome in Neo Turf Masters, and also did really well on Minit. So has at least 2 games where they are incredibly fierce.
Yeah, and they have the world record on VVV on multiple category, including the UD7 category. So they're very specialized on certain type of games. I don't know if they're going to go for the full 10 games for UD7. Mohawk usually is more of a player that picks his favorite and grind them as much as they can until they get all the world records, but never go for the full 10. So I don't know how they're going to do during UD7. We still have a lot of time. This is only this 4th week for UD7, so even if you want to join us and get on the fun to learn Neo Turf Master, Minit, Trackmania 2, Lawnmower, and the others, you can join us. On next Saturday, we are going to have another fun competition, fun tournament. But the players are going to play for the gold star, so maybe a bit more things to gain. But the games are going to be Mega Man, Trackmania, Kirby, and Minit. So Trackmania and Minit we've seen today. Some players are very, very strong. Mega Man we've seen yesterday. Some players are incredibly talented at the category already. And Kirby is a fun game, a tool just released to teach players how to manipulate the RNG. So it shows what input you have to do to get them to the next best RNG. So the game is changing, and maybe we are going to see some very different strat in the future. I don't know how it's going to affect how the players from UD7 speedrun the game, but I'm very excited for that scene. So be sure to check out the Kirby's Dream Land tournament on Speed Gaming happening these current weeks. It's pretty cool. It's a very fun game. It released in 1993, and how are we finding tricks and strat about a game like almost 30 years after?
Especially a game maybe it's not the most popular game of the franchise, but Kirby is a very popular franchise, and it's probably because it's a Game Boy game. Something about the handheld games just tends to keep people away, it seems. But you're right. It's just speedrunning is always finding a way to find something new. If you want to see Kirby's Dream Land, and you can't wait until Sunday, what you said, right?
Saturday.
Obviously, it's not on the schedule yet, because I'm looking at the schedule, because I can see that Kirby's Dream Land is coming up tonight at 8 on Speed Gaming 3, along with Super Mario Bros. 3 Randomizer on Speed Gaming 2. A very cool thing we've started doing is Magic the Gathering. We started doing a show about Magic the Gathering. Particularly, we're playing Arena on Wednesday nights, which is that's tonight.
Wow!
At about 4 hours. Looking at my fake watch to check the day. What? That doesn't. There's like 3 reasons that doesn't make sense.
Nobody knows what a watch is anymore. Everybody uses phones, so it's okay. It's a gesture people are going to do in 100 years, not knowing what it means, but still do it. Like the fact that the phones are still weird and all those things.
They'll look it up on Wikipedia on their phones and be like, "Oh, that they did it because they used to wear a thing there." Weird. Who could even imagine? There's also Zelda 1 Randomizer, Super Mario Bros. 3 Randomizer, and Ori and the Blind Forest happening this evening on Speed Gaming's 1 through 5. Check the schedule to find out when. And also, hey, Ori and the Blind Forest happening right now, actually, a little bit underway on Speed Gaming 2. So if you can't get enough speed running, then we've got you covered.
Awesome. I'll be sure to check that out. If you follow the UD, you have all the information with the command UD !UD7. All the players are streaming their practice, and these days they're streaming their team tournaments you've mentioned. So I'm pretty sure you are streaming your races as well, Mythical, and apparently your team is doing quite well. So if I win, if my team wins, I don't win much, but if my team wins, led by Double Tifa, Fireman, and the others, we might play against each other next week, so it'll be interesting. And we are talking a lot about it, and we are going to stream the finals next weekend, not this weekend, but in 10 days. So be sure to stick with Speed Gaming. All the network is broadcasting speedrun almost 24/7 these days, and UD is keeping coming almost every day now, so it's going to be pretty fun. We'll see you on Saturday.